So this will be an important video about free speech and the censorship of speech. And that's why we're going to get into Candace Owens, gender dysphoria, and the Equality Act. All very favorite topics for Jason Burmis. No, I'm just joking around here. We have to talk about this because this is becoming a national issue. And this dialogue, I do believe, is controlled by just insane people with no integrity at all at the helms of the mainstream media. First of all, I kind of wanted to point out this article here by NBC News that is titled, quote, "How Venezuela's Vice Grips on the Internet Leaves Citizens in the Dark During Crisis," and talks about the story of an individual who lives there, who wants to find out what's going on in Venezuela with the revolution, with the coup d'etat, with all the civil unrest happening in that country, and how he can't find out because there's censorship in that country. Meanwhile, they literally posted an article in August of 2018 titled, quote, "Right-wing platform provides refuge to digital outcasts and Alex Jones," with the byline, "The removal of Jones was just the biggest and latest in a long series of bans that have been pushed extremists into lesser traveled corners of the internet, pretty much advocating." Oh, I'm actually in the background of that photo. Holy cow. I used to have a fitted hat. I just noticed that now. Sorry, obsession. That was weird. I had whatever. That's a whole other discussion. But again, we've been critical of Alex Jones. We've been supportive of him when people unfairly attack him. But they pretty much are calling for pure, outright censorship of anyone on the right wing, pretty much advocating for big tech monopolies to control information while at the same time decrying it when it doesn't fit into their little narratives that they're trying to push on you. Again, no integrity at all. This is all about power. This is all about just gaining more control over other individuals, trying to push your narratives. And the best way to do that is to control information. And we're seeing this whole new wave of censorship, which the mainstream media outlets like MSNBC and NBC called for activists, so many people. It just affected Candace Owens. And again, I'm not a right-wing person. I don't agree with everything Candace Owens says, but she got pretty much denied from using her Facebook for saying, quote, "Black Americans must wake up to the great liberal hoax. White supremacy is not a threat. Liberal supremacy is." Again, playing bipartisan, divisive politics. I don't think that was reason to get banned. This is, of course, all on the heels as Twitter right now is declining to even say if you post something about gender dysphoria, relating it to mental disorders, they're denying even commenting if that is something worthy of a ban on the heels of a doctor, a PhD psychologist, on the topic of gender dysphoria for temporarily being suspended on the platform for expressing his scientific viewpoints on gender dysphoria. Again, he's a researcher in sexual orientation, and he was literally suspended. Now, of course, Twitter apologized after suspending him, after people made this a big issue. But I wanted to point out that even the American Psychiatric Association points to the fact that gender dysphoria does exist. There should be a larger topic about it, which Twitter automatically jumped and censored. Now, of course, they're apologizing for it. And this is all on the heels of the Equality Act just being passed in the House and sparking even a larger debate. Jason, what's your take on all of this? And what's your take on this Equality Act? And what should people know about this?
Well, before we get to the Equality Act, look, there's a young Luke Rudkowski right behind Alex Jones in that MSNBC article, folks. Take note. As far as the Equality Act, it was promoted by Lambda Legal. And from the very little that I know of the specifics in the bill, it would cause all NCAA programs to accept transsexual athletes, and it would expand, I believe it's over 200 areas in 18 states right now that we have protections for these people, including 200 cities, them being allowed to use the restroom. So, you know, if you identify as a woman and you're a biological male and you want to go into my niece's bathroom, I guess you're allowed to do that in certain places. And now, if this were to pass the Senate, you would be able to do that everywhere. It's not going to pass the Senate. Thank God. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that a scientist who studies gender dysphoria and actually promotes the surgery He openly promotes the surgery. He says, look, if all the other treatments fail, this is probably the best way to go with a adult, by the way. At least he hasn't jumped the shark on that. And somehow he got banned until there was an outcry. Look, this whole idea that biology doesn't exist, that there are more than two genders. Hell, we even watched an MSNBC piece on it. And the bill is LGBTQRXYZ. And even like Ari Velsha, who's, you know, as establishment as it gets, only did the LGBT. He didn't add the Q, Luke. Should we go after that bigot, Ari? How dare he? I mean, come on.
They're eating themselves in a larger aspect of these bigger debates. But of course, the mainstream media, the government, elements in the government are pushing for this now. The Senate most likely won't vote for this. Donald Trump said he wouldn't vote for this, but it definitely seems like history and science are pretty much just being purged to fit a certain narrative that people have an agenda to push out there towards you. And it's important to question everything. And the main aspect here is we should have the right to question and to talk about things openly without government coming in there forcing you, saying you got to do this and you have to do this and you have to do that. There's no equality in that. There's oppression. I like how they're trying to label everything as this is all equality. This is all going to help you. This is Big Daddy government coming in here, bending you over, trying to give you a little free stuff here, and then pretty much you're looking at the free stuff as you're getting spanked and taken advantage of by government that, of course, is always seeking power. And this is why we're seeing so much hypocrisy, just so much disingenuous behavior in a lot of these topics. And again, the best way to sanitize all of it is to have transparency, is to have a dialogue, is to have conversations. And now when scientists are being, temporarily suspended, of course, it's important to note here, Twitter did unsuspend this doctor. Twitter did apologize, but this was their initial kind of response, which does make you wonder and question a lot of these bigger aspects and a lot of these bigger topics and debates that should be openly discussed.
Well, you know what? I want to talk really quick about the Venezuela situation because I don't approve of censorship. And for instance, the BBC and CNN, two separate outlets that you were able to access through Venezuela, have now been cut off. They are also using their internet tools to try to subvert apps out there like WhatsApp. In fact, in this article, it's noted that the coup d'etat, the military coup that Guaido was touting in the beginning of the day, well, a lot of people, citizens of Venezuela, had no idea what happened with that until much later in the day when they had access. And I'd also like to point out that their acts towards the BBC and CNN almost reflect what's gone on in the United States with RT. Now, RT, or Russia Today, has not been taken off the air, but certain cable providers no longer have them. Obviously, the algorithm does not favor them on YouTube and other online platforms, and they have been decried in official government documentation, among other things, especially with the Russiagate hoax. That initial paper that was put out about meddling in elections actually highlighted a former RT host, Abby Martin, who is as left as they get, by the way, folks, and said that she was somehow promulgating Trump to be elected. She wasn't even on the air at the time. She's far from pro-Trump. And this shows you how they are able to spin these things time and time again, making you believe that somehow an American citizen, an American journalist like Abby Martin helped interfere in the elections on behalf of Russia because she worked for the network, therefore they shouldn't even be given a voice. By the way, RT always associated with quote-unquote fake news. Oh, really? Well, when fake news is being brought to me by pioneers like Jesse Ventura and people like Jimmy Dore, who are going on there either in segments or as guest hosts, well, give me all that fake news because they're the only ones actually telling the truth. And that's not to say that RT and Russia Today tell the truth about their region or always tell the truth about the United States and geopolitics in general. They don't. You have to have discernment. However, they do a much better job than most, and that's the facts. Folks, if you enjoyed this video, we are doing 4 videos a day across 2 separate platforms. That's News for a Change and We Are Change. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Ring that bell so you get the notifications. Share this on social media. Thumbs it up so it spreads around. But most importantly, guys, you got to get out there and you've got to be the change you want to see in the world.